Hi and welcome. I'm Mary of Mary Dean Draws. So glad you're here. I'm wrapping up today my series on getting started with watercolor. And I wanted to wrap it up by giving you my best tips for creating a composition. So these are the things that I think will be helpful to you when you want to sit down and actually start something on your own. And sometimes the hardest part is knowing what to start, what to paint, and how to get started. So these tips are for you. I created a printable here. I'll put these tips in the post, but you can download the printable if you're a subscriber, or you can download the watercolor pack that I'm going to have available in my shop. So I'm going to go through these basic steps and show you some of my examples from my artwork. So, and this is Benny. So my first step when I'm wanting to create art is I usually collect images. And a lot of times I use Pinterest boards. And so I'll create like a floral 2025 Pinterest board. And I collect the different florals that inspire me, that I like the colors. And I'll collect those images. And sometimes I'll collect real photos. And sometimes I'll collect art from like a famous artist that I'm really inspired by. Like if I like the way that they compose the background or arrange the flowers, I'll print those out, save them and print them out, and kind of use them as reference and inspiration. I think it's a great idea to learn from great artists, to learn how they use colors, how they created shadows. I did some of that in my tutorials, but I think that's just a really great way to kind of be discipled by someone who's gone before you. And then, yeah, I just have these flower photos as reference for color and shape. And a lot of times I might know what a flower looks like, but I'm not sure how it looks at a different angle or facing a different direction. So I really like reference photos for that reason. So that was number one. Also, if you have real flowers, if you have real objects that you want to paint, working from life is always really great as well. The second thing that you're going to want to do is plan your composition. So at the most basic level, you're going to want to choose what's your layout. Are you going to use a square piece of paper? Are you going to have your paper landscape? Is it going to be portrait? Is it going to be big? Is it going to be small? That will determine how you want to lay out whatever you're trying to paint. And then my second recommendation for when you're planning out your composition is to think about, what do you want to stand out? I like the idea of making a hero or a star of your painting. Not all paintings will just have one, but for example, like in this Matisse painting, I think this flower right here is the hero, it's the star. He's put it in the middle, it's bright, it's colorful, and it's the biggest object. I think that's one great way to start composition, is start with that, whatever you want to be the hero. And when you decide what colors you want that to be, then from there, you can determine the rest of the painting. So, and you're going to have to figure out, how can I make this thing the hero and the star? So how can you make the background not compete with your hero? How can you make the objects around it not compete? How can you make that one thing, or sometimes it might be two or three, like as in the case with flowers, how can you make those things stand out? So you're going to want to think about shape. You're going to want to think about size. You're going to want to think about color and also background. All those things will help you create this composition. And then think about threes as well as a general rule. Now, of course, rules are always made to be broken, but as a general rule, our eyes like things threes. So whether you're talking about like the number of flowers that you include, or with the actual breakout of the composition. So like, for example, in the little worksheet, I kind of broke up the image in thirds, and you want to have your hero in one of those thirds. So what I mean by that is, you wouldn't want your hero image to take up and cut your image in half. You would want to put it in one of the thirds. So when you put something right in the middle and it cuts it in half, it makes it look kind of chunky and not balanced. So our eyes favor thirds. So for example, in this painting, I would say this flower right here is the hero, and it's kind of in this third and this third part of the painting. And the vase, you notice, doesn't come up to the half mark. It's below, and it's centered in the middle third approximately. This is all approximate. It doesn't cut the painting in half, which I think why this composition works. And it also has 3 flowers. So I think this painting, to my eye at least, looks balanced. And also consider, instead of, sometimes we tend to put things right in the center small, consider expanding your image and letting it come to the edges. Like, consider using the whole canvas or the whole paper. I think that's really interesting. I like to do that. That's all up to your own taste. And then when you're working with images and when you're working with inspiration pictures, just remember that you're the artist. Definitely simplify it. Like, if I was working from a photo like this, I wouldn't try to reproduce this. This is actually somebody's work. Somebody took this photo and somebody created these flowers. So, I don't feel comfortable like copying exactly what they did. This is just inspiration. So I'm going to choose a few things and incorporate them into my painting. I'm not going to use all of them, and I wouldn't want to. That wouldn't be fun for me. So I'm always simplifying and choosing the things that I want to have in my painting. I think it's always important just to make sure it's fun for you and that you enjoy doing it. Because if you don't enjoy doing it and you're just trying to make something because you think that's what you need to create, then it's not going to be enjoyable for you. It's not going to be a sustainable way to be an artist. It's going to be frustrating. So simplify as much as you want. If you took this inspiration pick and just did the poppy, or maybe 2 poppies, or maybe 3, don't worry about doing all the things. Focus on the things that you want to do and make it fun. And just remember, you're the artist. You get to do what you want. If you don't want to do, for example, a reddish orange poppy, make it purple. They're not really purple in real life, I don't think, but you're the artist, so you get to choose and you get to create and you get to use the colors and the layout and the design that you want. That's what makes it fun, and that's what makes your art unique to you. The millions of choices that you make and the preferences that you have make you the artist that you are. Third thing that you're going to want to do once you decide kind of on your composition, then I would start with a sketch. So usually I would use a really faint pencil lines, a pencil that can erase easily. And I don't do a lot of details. I just kind of do the basic shapes. I start with the largest shape and then I work down. So for this one, if I'm sketching this out, I would start with that hero, that largest flower, and then I would work my way to the other smaller ones and size everything down based on the star of the show. And then I would do like the vase, and the vase is going to be sized based on the size of the flowers. So that's my tip. Always start with the largest thing. We learned in my tutorial on sketching with watercolor that you could do pencil, you could sketch with really light watercolor lines, and you could also just sketch really light and do the whole shape as a sketch and just build on top of the shapes. So that is, and I would encourage you to really spend some time with the sketching, because I think it will make it less frustrating down the road because you'll have a template and a kind of a path to follow. I do often just kind of free form it, and I think that's okay for sometimes, but I just really encourage you to just take the time to sketch. I think it does pay off and you get better results with that. If you're just playing around and you're just learning and you're experimenting, I don't think you need to sketch. But if you're wanting to kind of do something more complex and really intentional, I really encourage you to sketch. That has been really helpful for me in my own art, taking time to do that. And then your last step is, of course, to paint. And I would encourage you to start with a background with a really washy. What I mean by washy is lots of water in the color and really wet. And for this painting here, we did this at my class the other night. I started with a background. I always think that it's easier to start with a background and then bring in the colors. It's a lot harder, especially if you're doing little tiny details, to go around all those tiny details with the background at the end. Also, if you start with a background, then you have like your starting color, and then your other colors, you can determine how are they going to stand out from that background. So for this one, I did a really light, like violet, a little bit of pink in it. And while it was wet, I dropped in some blue and some yellows to kind of give it an interesting background. And then I started building my layers of color. So I started with the lightest pink here, pink, light blue, and a light yellow. And the important thing to remember is to let your layers dry in between. If you keep working it, it's going to get muddy and you're going to lose those beautiful crisp edges that you can get if you build those layers. So I usually do one layer of the lightest color and I'll let things dry. And also I might have to let it dry in between flowers if I don't want them to bleed together. So I would do the lightest layer, and then slowly, as you let it dry, either using a drying tool or a fan. The other night at class, we used a fan, like a box fan, turned upside down on a shelf, and then we just stuck our paintings underneath. That's a really good option. So then slowly, I get a little bit darker, kind of working with that base color and then adding some darker layers. And I bring areas of shape in that are darker, and you can watch that video that I did on building value into your painting to kind of get some more information about that. So work up. The last that I would do is black, if I'm even using black in my painting. And optionally, I work with a lot of mixed media. So at the end, I might use some pencil. I don't use colored pencil, but you could use colored pencil. I like a really thick black pencil. You could use pen and ink. I love the look of ink and watercolor. And you could use pastels. That's what I do a lot in my own art. That's what you see in this one. I built areas of color with pastel. And I'll also use chalk pencils. I enjoy those. So those are my best tips to get started. Again, if you want to download the printable, it's free for paid subscribers on Substack, and then you can also download the pack that I have available in my shop now. And I'll put a link below for those things. And yeah, have fun. I'd love to see what you create. Have a great day. Bye.